Few moments bring a basketball fan more joy than when a promising young player finally cashes in all that potential and takes the leap to become a star. This can change the trajectory of an entire franchise and present new names that will define the history of the league. It's a great way for a team to improve without having to make a risky trade or new signings. It's inspiring to see a player come from humble beginnings and blossom into stardom by working on their craft over a single offseason. I'm Red, and today we'll be talking about some of the best breakout seasons in NBA history. These are the most improved players that improved the most. We'll try not to include players who already upped their game after being notable stars already. First off, let's run through some of the players who came out of nowhere and just started giving star-level performances while no one was looking. Some of these types of players that burst into the scene also fall off almost as quickly as they ascended. Hassan Whiteside is as out of nowhere as it gets. He was drafted and then waived by the Sacramento Kings. He then bounced back and forth between the D-League and some pro leagues in Lebanon and China. Leave it to the Miami Heat to find disregarded talent and make the most of them. They signed Whiteside in 2015, and he became a dominant stat stuffer almost immediately. He was getting triple-doubles with points, rebounds, and blocks. He was leading the league in blocks or rebounds. He broke out as an all-defense guy in 2016, getting up to 4th in the most improved ladder. This sudden rise made Whiteside the first NBA player in history to go from a minimum salary to a max contract. Unfortunately, his fall-off was also as sudden. Holes in his game and attitude were getting exposed, and he bounced around the league again. He now finds himself playing in a league in Puerto Rico. Another famously unexpected breakout star was Jeremy Lin in 2012. Linsanity was much more of a breakout month than a full season. It was one of the most memorable hot streaks ever. The Knicks were horrible to start the season. Their star duo of Carmelo Anthony and Amari Stoudemire were both out due to injury. They were so bad that they decided to play this undrafted guy from Harvard. He played less than 10 minutes a game last season and netted only 2.6 points per game in those 29 games he was allowed to play in. But the Knicks had to try something new. Little did they know, they were sleeping on some star potential. Jeremy Lin scored 79 points in his first 3 games as a starter. That is the most in NBA history after the merger. He brought back the Knicks into relevancy by winning 7 games straight with a bunch of bench warmers and role players. Lin averaged 25 points, 9.2 assists, and 2.2 steals over this stretch. He went toe-to-toe with Kobe Bryant, hit game-winning shots, and electrified Madison Square Garden while still taking taxis to games and couch surfing. That's how fast it all was. He cooled off soon, and after a change in the coaching staff and the pecking order with Melo's return, Jeremy Lin became just a decent NBA player who got a new team almost every other season when the Knicks decided not to re-sign him. Victor Oladipo didn't really come out of nowhere. Orlando had high hopes for him when they drafted him with the 2nd pick, but he bounced around the league and was traded to the Indiana Pacers. At this point, nobody expected an All-NBA guy to come out of this. Oladipo's scoring was actually declining for the past 2 years before being traded, so this breakout season was completely unexpected. The Pacers were supposed to just embrace being a developing team and tank the season, but Oladipo had other plans. His 15.9 points per game last season ballooned into 23.1 points. He doubled his 1.2 steals per game to 2.4, which was the highest in the entire NBA. He carried that developing team on both sides of the ball. He brought them to the playoffs and even took a peak LeBron to 7 games. The Pacers fell despite Oladipo's 30 points, 12 rebounds, 6 assists, and 3 steals in Game 7, as well as his 28-point triple-double in the game prior. The Oladipo-led Pacers were destined to become a problem for years to come, but sadly, injuries derailed his career. Our last example of these short-lived breakout stars is Dana Barros. In the 1994 season, He went to the Philadelphia Sixers after being a Seattle Supersonics bench warmer. To their surprise, he became one of the premier long-range shooters of the 90s. In 1995, he achieved his career high in every major statistical category and had his one All-Star season. He had a 50-point performance this season. In that game, he also led his team with 8 assists and damn near led them in rebounding despite being only 5'11". The season after, Dana signed with his hometown team Boston Celtics, and his points average curved down from 13 to 20, then back to 13 again. It only kept decreasing as the years went on. I wonder what it was in Philly that had him acting like that. I guess we can never underestimate the power of a change in scenery. Dale Ellis is one of these players who benefited from having a new team. He was a bench player in Dallas who was made to play a small forward, but when he arrived in Seattle for the 1987 season, he was given a more natural role of a shooting guard. And shoot he did. He attempted 12 more shots than he did last season per game, while also increasing his shooting efficiency by 10%. The effect is scoring numbers that blew up from a measly 7 points to damn near 25 points per game. This remains the largest scoring increase in 1 year by anyone in NBA history. Could you imagine the regret that some of these executives must have had when dealing out players that then become superstars? Like the Portland Trailblazers were just making a young Jermaine O'Neal sit on the bench for 38 minutes a game for 4 years until he finally demanded a trade out of there. The Pacers did him justice, giving him enough burn to boost his points from 3.9 to 12.9, his rebounds from 3.3 to 9.8, and his blocks from 0.8 to 2.8. Funnily enough, he actually won the Most Improved Player award the year after this, when he bumped his numbers even further to 19 points and 10.5 rebounds. The year prior, he couldn't beat out Tracy McGrady for the Most Improved Player award, after a similar situation with the Orlando Magic handing him the keys to the offense the way the Toronto Raptors only allowed for his cousin Vince Carter. T-Mac increased his scoring average from 15.4 to 26.8 points. If only the Raptors knew they had a future back-to-back scoring champ in their back pocket. Sometimes, a new team unlocks a player's potential by introducing a new system. The Phoenix Suns in the mid-2000s were innovating with offensive schemes, so when they traded for Boris Diaw, he completely revolutionized his game. He had a crazy breakout season in 2006, winning Most Improved after he increased his player efficiency rating by 7.3. That's tied for the most ever in NBA history. The Suns utilized Diaw's futuristic brand of playmaking from the big man position. He could play point guard and center, and he did just that when the Suns star center Amari Stoudemire got injured. Now that was a devastating moment for Suns fans because Amari himself had his own breakout season. The year before Diaw had the biggest PER change ever, Stoudemire had the third biggest leap in PER with a 6.8 increase. You could see it in the Suns' winning record, going from 29 last year to 62 the year that Amari won Most Improved as well. Though it would honestly be unfair to say that this was all him because his improvement could arguably be credited to another player entirely. In that same season, Steve Nash signed with the Phoenix Suns. He was the perfect partner for Stoudemire. Their pick and roll was unstoppable. I can't call this Nash's breakout season because he was very good for years before, but this was still unexpected for a 30-year-old who wasn't gonna get paid by his old team. Here's how surprising this season was from Nash. In 2005, he became the only MVP winner ever to not even be an All-Star the year prior. The mass improvement of the whole Phoenix Suns squad must be attributed to him finding new ways to perfect his generous style of play. This reminds me a lot of the group improvement of the Golden State Warriors in 2015. I mean, let's get this straight. Steph Curry was a star, just like Nash was. They even played similarly. His breakout season was back in 2013 when he went from 14.7 points per game to 22.9 points. And he won MVP in 2015, but he honestly could have won MIP even after. Because in 2016, he broke out as an all-time great. His 23 points per game became 30, winning him the scoring title. On the other side of the ball, he won the steals title with 2.1 cookies per game. He achieved the 50-40-90 season at high volume. He leaped from winning the MVP to then winning the first ever unanimous MVP in 2016. Going back to 2015 though, Steph's splash brother Klay Thompson ended up in 5th place for most improved. He started shooting more threes but also somehow improved his efficiency in shooting them. Beyond getting buckets, Klay became Golden State's go-to guy to get a stop in the perimeter. But the Warriors' breakout doesn't stop there. Draymond Green finished as a runner-up for most improved, as well as Defensive Player of the Year. It was a bittersweet revelation when David West got injured and Draymond was given way more minutes on the floor. They saw that he could conduct a great system on offense and defense. The Warriors struck gold with this new winning formula. You can't really blame the voters for denying them the Most Improved Player award in 2015, because in that year, a star was born. A defensive-minded energy guy off of the Chicago Bulls bench got a lot more playing time after Derrick Rose's injury. The team was hoping he could maybe develop into a 3-and-D guy in time for their MVP's return. Instead, they had themselves a whole new number 1 option. The world was finally introduced to Jimmy Butler. His most improved season in 2015 saw him leapfrog into the Bulls' leading scorer while being an all-defense guy and leading the entire league in minutes played with 38.7 per game. And to think, he didn't even increase his minutes from last season, but his production shot up immensely. His scoring went from 13 points to 20 per game, out of just improving his shooting efficiency from 44.6% to 50.2%. His overall player efficiency rating went from just 13.5 to 21.3. But here are some simpler numbers that may be more interesting to you. Before his breakout season, Jimmy Butler declined a $44 million contract extension offered to him by the Bulls at the deadline to instead bet on himself. By the end of this incredible season, Jimmy took home the MIP award and a new 5-year, $95 million max contract. He knew that he could do better. It's like a mental switch was flipped this year, and ever since, Butler had the audacity to be the best player on the court on any given night. The year after Jimmy won, it was also another easy pick for most improved. CJ McCollum set a new record for the largest increase in points per game ever for a player who stayed on the same team. His minuscule 6.8 points off the bench became a formidable 20.8 points as a starter for the Portland Trail Blazers. He earned an increase of nearly 20 minutes more to his playing time. All his shots from deep, at the rim, or on the free throw line were being executed at a way higher efficiency than ever before. Next, we have a scorer who stepped out of his comfort zone. Kevin Love loved to dominate in the paint, but adding some perimeter versatility allowed him to jump from 14 points to 20.2 points per game. In 2011, he developed into the next big stretch four, while old Dirk Nowitzki was winning it all. Love's three-pointers went from 33% on 1.8 attempts to 42% on 2.9 attempts in a single year. He of course still improved at everything you'd want your big to do, transcending his good 11 boards per game last season into a league-best 15.2 rebounds per game. His breakout moment of the season was a game when he dropped 31 points and 31 rebounds. These rebounds of his also set up his patented outlet passes. He single-handedly brought a failure of a Timberwolves team into offensive success. Now, since we're on the topic of versatile big men of that era, I have to shout out Hiro Turkoglu, who reached a next-level peak after 8 years in the NBA. His 9.5 points, 5.7 rebounds, and 5 assists per game in 2008 remain as his career highs. It was the latest anyone has ever received the Most Improved Player award in their career. Most players win it during their second or third year in the league. Those are the developing years, when breaking out makes the most sense. But the oldest player to win the Most Improved Player award was Darrell Armstrong. He won in his 5th year in the league as a 30-year-old. I guess I'd just like everyone to remember not to easily give up hope on that one player on your favorite team. They might still have a shot at breaking out. If we're talking late bloomers though, then we have to end this video on the biggest NBA glow up ever. A little more emphasis on the bloom here rather than the late. Giannis Antetokounmpo improved tremendously, but he also showed raw potential right away. When scouts saw a skinny kid in Greece with a projected 7-foot frame outplaying grown men, they knew these natural qualities had to be brought to the NBA and developed. Giannis worked as a street vendor since childhood to help his family. He would walk miles and miles to the nearest basketball court, where he had to ball out while sharing the same pair of shoes as his brothers. He was not afraid of the grind it would take to improve every single day. The first step was his body. It had the perfect frame, but Giannis basically lived in the weight room to put on the muscle he needed to physically dominate. He underwent one of the most drastic body transformations of an NBA player from his rookie year to his breakout year. Once he reached that point in 2017, when he won the Most Improved Player award, he looked like he could end up as a top 10 player ever, though he would have the weakest rookie and sophomore season for an all-time great. That's how much he changed. In 2017, he increased his points average from 16.9 to 22.9, his rebounds from 7.7 to 8.8, and his assists from 4.3 to 5.4. This specific leap doesn't do him much justice because he's improved every single season. He's the only NBA player I've seen finish top 10 for Most Improved Player for 5 years straight. That's 2015, 2016, and 2017 when he won, and then 2018 and 19 when he then ended up as the league's MVP. These seasons kind of mimic the gigantic strides that only Giannis can do when he's running down the court for a slam dunk. In that 2017 season, Giannis was put back as the Milwaukee Bucks' forward, with a now more well-rounded skill set from playing as a guard in previous years. He was a cheat code, either being too big, too strong, too fast, too skilled, or too smart for anyone they could throw at him, on both sides of the ball. That year still stands out as his breakout since he tied Boris Diaw for the highest PER change ever. But unlike Diaw, who went from a fringe NBA player to above average, Giannis was a good player who transformed to a top-tier superstar, poised to become the new face of the league. And if he doesn't slow down, he could very well leap right over any all-time great too. And that concludes our video. Were there any breakout seasons that we missed? Which one surprised you the most when it happened? Tell us in the comments below. We have more videos about players who surprised everyone by overachieving, and about teams that also greatly improved in one offseason. Check out our channel to see all of that and more. You could also get in on our Patreon so you can suggest what topics we should cover and have a chance to win prizes like jerseys, games like 2K and Madden, and even game tickets. Either way, you can support our channel by liking, subscribing, and sharing our videos. This has been Red. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.